Doesn't say it all, but I think this is great conversation stuff, right? The affordability isn't there, the value isn't there, the low borrowing cost isn't there, the high yield isn't there. Is it any wonder young people are renting and turning to alternative investments besides residential real estate? Where have all the young home buyers gone? Check the stock market. The rent versus buy debate has taken on new meaning for Gen Z thanks to soaring share prices and more investment options. I mean, this option has been there for a long time, right? So there's that. And also, I think it depends on what your strategy is. There's going to be risk in anything, in any investment or anything that you do, whether it's the stock market, crypto, or real estate. There's going to be risks. So it's just whatever you're cool with, right? But some of these takes in the comments I thought was interesting. I wanted to pull up. But do not let anyone spin this as young people don't want to be homeowners. They'd rather gamble in crypto and buy stocks. Of course, they want to own homes, but most can't afford to, so they try to invest elsewhere in hopes of getting ahead a different way. I think that this is accurate. I think it's just innate that you want to own your home, right? That you want to buy a home, especially if you're American. That's just, you're kind of like ingrained in that to some extent, depending. I know it depends, but you know, kind of like I grew up knowing, okay, I'm going to college because my mom was always like, you're going to college. Like, it's not up for discussion, debate, none of it. There's also just that idea of like, okay, you're going to buy a house, you're going to own a home because you grew up in a home, you know, in a home, all of your, you know, aunts, uncles, grandparents have a, right? Like everybody has a home that, you know, if you grew up in a house that you were, you know, if you grew up in a family where you were renting and everybody that you knew was renting, it probably wouldn't be this. So I do understand that there's differences, but for a lot of people, you're going to want a home. I just think that there's an innate thing about that. Of course, they want to own homes, but most can't afford to. So they try to invest elsewhere in hopes of getting ahead in a different way. I think that's fine, but that also, this most can't afford to has more to do with where you're living. I saw something recently that was talking about Gen Z specifically, the Gen Zs that are buying homes. I saw that it's like 30% of Gen Z already owns a home, which I was shocked at because I'm like, really? 30%? Wow, that seemed high to me. But I forget what numbers they were from. It was from some government office number, which means it's probably fake. but anyways, let's just say it's real. And most of them were not buying where they grew up. They are buying in places like in the Midwest. I think Grand Rapids, Michigan was the number one place. And then like Des Moines, Iowa was in there and other places in the Midwest, basically, which that, I mean, if you look at some of the houses there, you can buy a house for 80 grand, 90 grand, 100 grand, 110 grand. That's great. My first house was 105 grand. It was in California, but it was not in Los Angeles. It was 2.5 hours outside of Los Angeles. It is no longer $105,000. I will tell you that. Okay. People would be less miserable if they stopped looking at houses as investments. Just buy a house and live in it. Don't worry about its worth. But all the money people say that it is the largest asset that most people will ever own, right? Your largest asset. So people do think of it in terms of that. Especially you can't just look at history. You can't not look at a house as some type of investment because look at history. Look at it. Both the good and the bad of it, whether it's just 2008 or all the years in between that where prices were going up for housing. It matters. It does matter. Young people can't afford it. Many are renting and investing in stocks and crypto in hopes of amassing a down payment. This is a little bit, they're hoping to get a down payment for, that's a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, and they probably should do that. It's frankly probably a good thing that they're investing. I mean, I don't know what their allocation is, obviously, but that they have their money in the stock market and in crypto instead of in cash right now. There's that. So 6% is legitimately a low borrowing cost, right? Historically, it is, right? That's what they've been saying. Historically, 6% is like where it's average, right? It's where it's been. Where we have been in the past 5 years, 2%, 3%, 4%, that's historically low. If the stock market returns more money per year, then yes, that's low borrowing costs. The problem is people don't want to commit to a location. I think this is a very interesting take on it, and I can't say that he's fully wrong. More people are mobile and moving around than ever. So that does make sense. The longest I ever lived in a house that I owned or that I didn't own was 3 years. That's not a good holding period for real estate. usually, right? Within the past 5 years and even before that, it was like, okay, you could do that. But, what do they say? If you're don't buy a house unless you're going to live in it for 5 to 7 years, things like that. So I think this is a good point. People complain about the financialization of housing, but then treat it like an asset class comparable to securities. People need to pick a lane. Well, it's not about picking a lane. It's real estate is an asset class, period. Historically been a hedge against inflation. It's an asset class. It just is. House prices double in less than 5 years. Who in their right mind buys at the top of a hyperinflated market? I'm not buying a boomer jackpot at a high interest rate and paying more than double what I do for rent. Let the bubble burst. There's some accuracies within this too. Also, this is funny. I'm not buying a boomer jackpot. That's very funny. At a high interest rate. Again, historically, it's not high. It's just recently historically high, right? Like it's recently this is high. Paying more than double what I do for rent. Now that, it's like, yeah, okay, don't do that. That also says a lot about where you live. Because there are areas where you can, when I bought my first house here in Florida, I bought it because the mortgage was almost half of what I was paying in rent at the time. When I bought this house, it was different. We could rent for cheaper than what we pay in this house by a little bit. Not an insane amount, but for like apples to apples house, right? But still, this was the first time I've ever seen that. Yeah, when I bought my first house, I was paying, it was about the same. It may have been slightly more, but financially it was definitely a better decision to buy. Absolutely. When you turn around and you sell like that, I'll just use that as an example, because right now it's a bit different. If you bought in 2022, 23 and you're trying to sell now, there's a very good chance you're losing money. Like a really good chance you're losing money. But back then, it's like that was clearly, in hindsight and everything, the best decision was to buy, because we lived in it for 3 years, we sold, we got not only all of our money back, but then some. Yeah, it's a good, to me, like that alone, I was sold. Like, okay, yeah, own a house. Yes, own a house. At the very least, you have your house, right? You have a house. No one's going to kick you out of your house, except for the bank, of course, if that happens, but that's not going to happen, right? Let's just say that's not going to happen. The inventory isn't there. This is wrong. This is dead wrong. Inventory is higher than it's been since, again, it does depend on the area. If this person lives in New York or New Jersey, then yeah, okay, fine. But even there, things are starting to pile up. It's starting up there. But if you're like where I am in Florida, forget it. There's a ton. You have so many options. That it's crazy that you can bargain. You can actually say, well, I'm not buying this at this price because literally the same house over here, they're selling it for this. I'll get that one. Either match price or I'm going to that one type of deal. You can bargain. As a buyer, you can bargain now. Renting is a steal in many markets. This is accurate. This is accurate. And this is totally accurate. And if that's the case in your market, then rent. It's fine. It's totally fine. No house could have given you or give you the same returns trading around all the phases of the AI theme. Yet, to say the insane returns younger generations are making trading their crypto. Yeah, that's fine. But also, if they were making that type of money, right? And I'm not saying that they're not, but you would think that if they were making insane returns trading AI stocks and crypto, then they would have their money for a house. They could buy a house cash. But is that what's happening? No, not. Maybe that's because, well, yeah, they're choosing to just keep going with their stocks and their crypto. Maybe. Maybe. The faster we relegate, here's another one. The faster we relegate the idea that your home is an investment to the dustbin of history, the better. You invest in a business or in the stock market. You buy your home as a place to live. Any equity you build over time is more likely to be a function of inflation than growth. I mean, yeah, it's historically been a hedge against inflation, right? Historically, it's been a hedge against inflation. Yes, okay, the past 5 years has been an anomaly in terms of the housing market, right? Just going up that much so quickly, right? It's been an anomaly in a lot of ways, not just housing, right? But it is still, right? They continue to just push down your throat. The largest asset, the biggest asset purchase you'll have. That's how they say it. That's what it's always been. It's not going to just change all of a sudden. It's not. That would take a long time for that sentiment to shift. And maybe this is the beginning of that. Maybe it is. But we'll see. It's going to take time. All right. System is set up by the retirees against the young people. Our current generation of working class Americans are waking up to this issue and are demanding better. Hopefully we can set up an economic system that has those that come after better off than us. I mean, okay. They will inherit, though. I mean, that's accurate. I mean, with boomers, millennials, when boomers start going, their millennial kids are going to get it. I've been thinking that this is going to happen. Probably going to happen. Stock market is better investment by far. I mean, it can be. It can also not be. It wrecks a lot of people, depending on how you do it. I mean, really. Living with 70 plus parents, not buying boomer bags. With builders offering 3.99% interest in the average DFW, Dallas Fort Worth seller negotiating almost 6% off their original asking price. If you can come up with a down payment, this is a great market. This is what I'm saying. That it depends on where you're at. I think I've been saying it in these videos. I think right now is a buying opportunity, depending on where you are, where you live in the States, right? Depending on where you live, this is a buying opportunity. This guy's obviously in Texas. Texas has been coming down, as has been Florida. We see areas of California coming down. We have Vegas, Phoenix, right? There's certain areas that are getting hit. Some harder than others, some faster, all that kind of thing, right? Obviously, real estate's local, it depends. But this is a buying opportunity, I think. That's what I think. Real estate is not a quick flip. Real estate is long term. I think it's a buying opportunity. This will turn out terribly when equities inevitably crash, likely due to government debts, and take a decade to recover. But now every other route also works out terribly. It feels like January 2000 swap AI and internet investment booms and shit is about to hit the fan. This can happen also. That's the thing. Is that you can have all your money in the stock market and that thing. I mean, listen, when 2008 happened, I had money in an IRA and I was still young. I was still newly adding money to an IRA, right? I was just out of college type of deal. So it wasn't a ton of money, but I saw not only did my account go negative, but it went negative to what I put into it. So I was then losing money. And that's where I was just like, okay, forget all these money managers. If I'm going to lose my money, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to learn how to do this stuff. Forget all this. You know, I mean, I was so mad. I was just like, are you kidding me? These guys are idiots. If this idiot can do it, this idiot can do it. That's how I take things. If this idiot can do it, this idiot can do it. And there's some things I choose not to do because I'd rather let some other idiot do it. But there are some things where it's like, no. This idiot's going to figure out how to do it. All right. There's the things that I want to figure out how to do, and other things I just, no, I don't want to deal with it. You pay somebody so you don't have to deal with it. Right. The FOMO of owning a home or get left behind is all gone. Prices are nowhere near the peak. FOMO of owning a home or get left behind is all gone. I mean, I don't know. It really depends on what narrative you're listening to, because a lot of people, just with the whole inflation stuff, they're saying, and again, this depends on where you live. Prices are nowhere near peak. Well, certainly not like in Florida here. They're not near, nope, not at all. nearly cut in half, almost 30%, easily. Real estate has become a horrible investment since the market peaked and rates exploded mid 2022. So yeah, it was mid 2022. I just disagree. And also, it depends on your holding period. This could be, hindsight will say it, but to me, it's a buying opportunity. It's a buying opportunity. Doomed to be burned. It wasn't hard to bid stocks up from 20 years of earnings to 30, but unlike homes, nobody needs stocks to live. If I bought a house, I'd need 2 roommates to equal what I pay to rent a 1-bedroom apartment. It makes no sense for me to buy. Yeah, depending on where you live, absolutely. Wall Street Journal is out of touch with the lives finances of young people. Being smart to wait until it breaks lower and becomes a smart investment again. Again, it totally depends on where. Totally depends on where. And it may not break lower. That's the thing. This is speculation. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? We'll find out. As soon as mortgage rates come down and stimmy checks go out and they do emergency housing emergency, this narrative will completely flip. There are a few things that if they happen, things will flip very quickly. It's true. Rates coming down could be the thing. If rates get down to 5.5%, I think all bets are off. People are going to start coming out of the woodwork to buy. That's what I think. For sure. It'll probably, more people will start trickling in as it gets under 6. But certainly if it gets down to 5.5, I think it's all bets are off. That's the number that I think about. It's like once it's 5.5, it's over. It's over. People are going to just start piling in again. Because in certain areas, that's all it's going to take for things to cash flow again. And then those investors are going to come back in, buy properties so that they can have assets, that cash flow, that they can stick a renter, just that cycle. Stimmy checks go out. You're talking about like tariff money or whatever, right? That they've talked about maybe. They do housing emergency. So the housing emergency that I think could happen, which I think it's going to happen at some point, is 40-year mortgages. More people have been talking about 40-year mortgages, but this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time, right? 40-year mortgages totally makes sense. What is it? In Japan, they have generational loans, right? Something like that. In Canada, they have 40-year loans. Is that accurate? Right? In other places, they have this. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. What do you think is going to happen to house prices if they come out with a 40-year loan? It's going to make everything more affordable because it's no different than vehicles. When I bought my first vehicle, 5 years, I think it was 4 years was the max. It may have been 5 years. But now it's like 7 years, 9 years for a car loan. That is, first of all, that is so dumb to me. Yeah, that is so dumb to me. But also that's crazy. And look at what has happened to car prices. They are so inflated. It's nuts. And I know that isn't all because of the financing, but it adds to it. Yeah, so that's what would happen with 40-year mortgages, is that housing prices, people are going to just go out and buy houses because, 40 years. And then, they're saying people that are 70 and over have more 30-year mortgages that aren't paid off than young people. And that's crazy. That's crazy. This will end poorly when the market crashes. Again, this kind of thing, if you pound your desk saying it's going to rain every day, at some point you're going to be right. Just leave it there. All right. No point in buying a house. That's you have to live somewhere. It's obviously ridiculous. Just consider rent as a tax on living, budget it out of your spending, and make money in other ways. I just think it's best to buy a house. I just think it's best to buy a house. Also, a very different way of thinking. Younger people do not view renting as throwing your money away. Major difference. Just because of how they're thinking about it. You can think about all different... Listen, younger people think about gender in all different kinds of ways. Also, it doesn't mean that they're correct or accurate. If we're being real, come on. Renting is throwing your money away. Listen, you can rent. When you rent a place and you turn around and you move, you get no money back except maybe your security deposit. Maybe. But if you sell a house, you're probably getting something back. Even if unless you're selling at a loss, all that kind of thing, you're getting something back. If you lived in that house for an extended period of time, you're getting something back. You're getting something back. That doesn't happen with renting. It doesn't. Again, there's pluses and minuses to renting and buying a house, and you have to assess it for yourself. It's just what it is. If I lived in Los Angeles, I would never buy a house unless I just became unless some major windfall came somehow and I had a ton of money and I could not only buy the house but also afford to live in it and all of that. But I would never, barring any of that, I wouldn't buy a house in Los Angeles. That's crazy. And that's to me, that would be a waste of money. But again, it depends on where you live. It's a house and an expense, not an investment. Yes, again, it depends. I bought my house over here. We lived in it for 2.5 years. Now there's a renter in it. Guess what? It was an expense, still is in some ways, but it's an investment because it pays me. That's it. That's all you gotta do. This is rich dad, poor dad stuff. This is basic. Everyone should know, 101 reading, either prices get cut by 50% or everyone gets a 25% raise at work and rates start coming down to 5%. Some of these things will happen, potentially. We'll see. Can't wait until no one owns a house. Everyone's money is in the stock market and political uprisings are squashed via threats of stock market crashes and rent price increases. So everyone is now herded into financial assets where there are no tenants, no responsibility. I would not pay the price most buyers are asking, and the young people are smart to wait because the housing market should implode. Should. Doesn't mean that will. Also, the realtors should be held accountable for market manipulation. That's obviously ridiculous. Biggest factor is down payment. They're incredibly cash poor. They want to own homes but don't have a down payment. Right, which someone was saying in a previous comment. And again, I'm going to say, if they're doing so well in the stock market and in crypto, crypto did what, 180% in the past year and a half or something like that? Does that not get them a down payment yet? What are they doing? I didn't have it that way. I saved month after month after month after month after month after month for a down payment, and it took years. I don't think they want to own homes. You have to wake up and do stuff when you own a house. Things break a lot. There is maintenance and cleaning. I think most of them want to live in a high-rise apartment and eat out every night. Yeah, there are definitely those people. And this also assumes city life. And again, where you live, that's the big difference. Most of Gen Z is unemployed and living at home. And here you are trying to tell us they are heavily invested in the stock market. With what money? Yeah, you can end up much wealthier if you rent and invest the money you save by not buying into the stock market. Plus, you won't spend every weekend at Home Depot. Again, this, it totally depends. There it is. So I thought some of these points were really interesting and just to kind of go back and forth on. Because everybody's got different ideas and different ways of doing it. There are all different pathways. You just kind of have to go with one, right? Just pick and go. And then there's also diversify. I just think it's best to own a house. That's what I think. Does it work out for everybody? No, maybe it doesn't work out for everybody. And, there are investors that make mistakes, lose money on deals, right? Things like that. Like, it does happen. It's not like it doesn't happen. It does. But overall, real estate has made more people in this country rich, more average people rich. I think it's just not smart to ignore it or to not see that.